Hi, I'm Michele Saumberfield, and I believe in reincarnation. The last few days, I have been basically channeling the energy of one of my past lives and writing poetry that she wishes for me to create on her behalf. Now, I think this is because I've been writing a book about her and I've been meditating a lot and thinking about her life so much. I think she's just coming through me. A lot of her poems are somber because she had a number of things happen in her life that were difficult. She got pregnant when she was only 13. She had to marry an older man she didn't really want to. And when I say an older, I mean in his 30s, but that's at least twice her age. Um, and she had to give up the dreams of marrying the guy she really had a crush on. And she never could quite give up those dreams. She also had to leave school. Her parents were so embarrassed by the fact she got pregnant out of wedlock that they stopped talking to her once she got married. And then at age 4, her daughter was killed in a tragic accident. Long story short, she was very depressed. She had an affair, which was really just a fling. It was like a quickie 2 different times. She got caught, had a big fight with her husband, and her husband basically went to town. A bunch of things happened, and a magistrate signed off on the paperwork to have her put to death. So I can't talk right now. I'm drinking a margarita. It's really good. It's strawberry. Don't drink and drive. It's really good. But anyway, so she was basically served a warrant and told, in 2 days, you're going to die. And she knew this for 2 days and just went about her life. She had no place else to go, no money of her own, no home of her own, no horse of her own, nothing like that. And she had exceptionally white blonde hair, which I think was probably because she had an illness when she was very, very tiny. And I think it kind of drained the pigment out of her hair, but it actually made her look really pretty and unique in her area. It was like what a lot of us aspire to, but even whiter, blonder than mine, more pure looking than mine. So she waited around and then was walked up to the burn-in post in the center of town to be put to death. So that's what this poem is about. I've been channeling a lot of somber poems, and I'm just going to do it, I guess, until she doesn't want me to anymore. I was telling my friend Ron, I almost feel like bad that I keep typing up these really negative sounding poems, but I said, I guess it's kind of like, if a person's really sad, you cry and cry and cry, and then there comes a point where you're all cried out, and then you get on with your life, and nothing's ever the same. You still feel your loss, but you're all cried out. And I feel like maybe that's what's going on. I feel like these poems are Charlotte's way of telling her story, and it's like her way of crying through me. And I don't know when she'll be all cried out. Maybe things will be better after I publish my book in a few months or 6 months or whenever it happens. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, I'm going to switch screens and I am going to read this poem as best I can. And I'm not going to lie to you, this is like my 4th take. I keep fumbling around to the point where it's distractingly bad and awful. And it's not because I'm drinking, it's because sometimes the way I phrase things gets me very tongue-tied. And then the print is absolutely tiny here. So I'm going to switch screens, do the best I can to read this poem and to do it justice for Charlotte. It's not that I'm drinking. Don't drink and drive. I'm just tongue-tied right now. Not having a good day, but I'm going to read this poem. This poem is called Into the Flames by Charlotte Massey Hawthorne. I stand atop a pile of wood, tied against a post. I think about my darling girl, the one I love the most. She was a living angel with the brightest funny smile, her joyful laugh and blue, blue eyes, a very special child. How will I ever tell her when I get to the other side? Her father had her mama killed to mend his broken pride. I'm surely not just saying no fault is placed on me, but soon he'll live alone as one, our family no longer 2 or 3. Oh, why did this all happen? If only I held my tongue. I should have just said nothing and let his temper run. Perhaps he was so justified, perhaps he was so not, but I'm the one who's standing now in this quandary that is hot. Shall I try to entreat him to see my point of view, or I say to seduce him through some convoluted ruse? Is there a way out of this, or is this now the end? I thought I'd live much longer, departure not my friend. I stand in front of witnesses who think I am a show, nary a one knowing the truth of my sorrows and my woes. They know I lost my baby, to that some can relate, but they will never understand the path I've had to take. John Hawthorne took me brazenly against my will, snuffed out my daydreams, and kept me for his thrills. I was a child bride, he thought I was sweet, like the fruit of the hawthorn tree, falling at his feet. I never had a boyfriend, I never had a love. I only had a husband who married me just because. And when we lost our Jenny, it didn't feel the same. Holding on for God knows what, no shred of joy remained. I stand before my townfolk in a terrible place, center of attraction, them studying my face. They wonder what it feels like. They look for me to cry, hysterical and repentant, begging for my life. The man stokes the flaming pit, my situation dire. I'm trying not to faint, though, standing on my impending pyre. Please, dear God, tell Jenny, Mama's coming home, escorted by the angels there, so she won't be alone. And God help John Hawthorne when he hears my final moan, and gone is my soft skin, scorched to the bone. For I was his pretty wife, known about town, a scandalous and sexy girl with breasts that were round. But no longer his to hold, singed by the flames, alone in his bed at night, he'll be haunted by my name. I am Charlotte Massey, removed from my thorn. I took off my wedding band early in the morn. I won't be his living wife. I'll be like a rose, sitting on a tombstone where only sorrow grows. I stand adrift my last hope, I see will never come. I peer into the distance, now my fate won't be undone. The kindling has been lit now, my heart beats fast and harder. I think about heaven and God's beautiful garden. I feel the strange tingling rising up my side. I tell myself they're watching, so I cinch my waning pride. In just a few more moments, it will be the end. I smile through the terror, but my calm is just pretend. I was Charlotte Massey once upon a time, snared by a rough thorn. Now the bells chime. They think they killed the town whore, but they never really knew. I was just a trap bird who was killed because I flew. So that's my real cheerful poem. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied toward the end there. All I can say is I remember being Charlotte, and I remember that day, and I remember that circumstance. And I remember her life leading up to it. I'm not going to say I remember every little thing, but I remember some major, major heartache she felt. And just knowing that poem could come forward and come out of me now makes me realize how powerful those moments in her life really were, because I'm removed 180 years. So for me to feel that feeling when I read that poem, that the sadness, the despair, the resignation, but you know, one of the things I recognize is that Charlotte very much believes in God. And I know I believe in God too. I know reincarnation's real, but I don't give up on God and Jesus just because I know reincarnation's real. Because there is a higher power, whatever you call it, there is a higher power. Now, I'm not going to say I believe everything happens for a reason and all that stuff, because I kind of really don't think that. But, you know, definitely Charlotte grew up in a town where she heard about God. And I think she heard a lot about shame and thou shalt not this and thou shalt not that and rules, rules, rules and judgment. But you know, a lot of judgment is just coming from people trying to control other people, not necessarily from God. So I just think it's important to realize that Charlotte really believed in God. And I think her belief in God and her peace with God is what helped her to stay as calm as she did the couple days leading up to her death, and then when she was tied to the post. I know that Charlotte's daughter, Jenny, who died at age 4, she was buried in the front yard and she had a headstone. And when she was alive, little Jenny had 2 dolls. She had a really fancy doll that was beautiful, that kind of porcelain kind with the real fancy clothes. And her dad, who ran a store, had gotten that for her, and she was very excited. But then she had a rag doll that a friend of Charlotte's made, and this doll wasn't all that cute, but it was the kind that was squishy and cozy and comfortable and you could hold at night. It wasn't going to break if you drop it, and it wasn't hard, and it wasn't cold in the wintertime like, you know, porcelain dolls are. And so I remember when Jenny was going to be buried, they were going to start filling in the hole. And Charlotte said, no, wait. And she ran upstairs in her house and she brought the 2 dolls down. And she said, you can't bury her alone. And her husband, John, said, are you sure you want to put the dolls in there with her? And Charlotte said, yes. Just let me decide which one I'm going to put in there with her and which one I'm going to keep out. And then Charlotte decided to give Jenny the fancy one that her dad had gotten her that had the beautiful clothes, because she thought to herself, well, you should want to give someone the better thing, the prettier thing, and not be selfish and keep that one for yourself. So she gave that one, she put that one in the little casket with Jenny, and Jenny was buried. And what happened was, on the last night that Charlotte was alive, she didn't want to sleep in her bed anymore. She slept on the couch that was downstairs in her house, and she took that cozy, squishy little doll, that rag doll of Jenny's, and slept with them. And it's funny because I have a number of dolls who have this same sort of retro cute face. I mean, they literally have the same face as this, but their bodies and their clothes are different. This doll's from the 60s. And but I recently got this one, and this one's built more, I don't want to say like a rag doll exactly, but sort of more like a rag doll. The others are more like stuffed animals with fur that have this exact same doll face. And I have to admit, I sleep with this doll at night sometimes. I named her Mindy May, and I feel like she's kind of also helping to remind me of Charlotte more, because just of the way she feels. And that was something that that I've remembered actually for years, not just recently. I remember Charlotte sleeping with her daughter's doll the last night that she knew that she would be alive. And it was, comforting. And it was also kind of a way of saying, okay, if I'm going to die, at least I know Jenny's on the other side. And at least I'll be reunited with Jenny. So, all right. So that's enough about my somber poem and a sad life. And I guess as long as you can focus on somebody you love and on God or whatever your beliefs are for something beyond this lifetime, then at least you've got hope and you're not completely, I don't know, devoid of positive light. So there you go. And I'm going to have a little more strawberry margarita with my little girl, Mindy here, little Mindy May. And just try to enjoy the rest of my Saturday. Have a good evening.